I am going to talk to you today about how AI is going to break your data platform, and you're not ready. Okay, basically this is what I'm going to explain to you. Some people are nodding, some people are nodding the other way, but I'm going to convince you. My name is Doron Porat. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a startup called Lakeaway, and you'll get to know me a little better once we dive in. So before we actually start, I'm going to take you through a journey which you are already familiar with, but I have a point, so I'm going to walk you through it really quickly. But looking at the past few decades through the evolution of data platforms, so we've seen a lot of progress, right? A lot of amazing progress and things happening. So if you look at the 90s, that's where basically BI was born with classic data warehouses and visualizations. And those are the first signs of observability for companies. If we move forward to the 2000s, that's when big data hit. That was the big time for Hadoop. A lot of software engineers going into the domain, and basically things untapped or unlocked for different companies. 2010s going forward, big data became a thing for everybody. And SQL met big data big time, and it was much more common for everyone to work with it. We also started working with cloud data warehouses and basically became a commodity for every company. 2020s, very interesting times to be a data person in. So that's basically rise of the lake houses and data on object store, that is the rise, and a lot of talk about observability and governance. And I think that what characterizes this era is a lot of very cool infrastructure going on, really accelerated us in a direction where we can do much more with our data. And maybe that's what's preparing us for what's coming tomorrow. And yeah, it's not going to be 2030s. It's going to be probably, tomorrow or day after tomorrow or something very, very close. And that very near future is taking us towards these agentic data platforms. So let's talk a little bit about that. But the question I want to ask, and I hope I will answer this in the next few slides, is do you really think this is another natural step in the evolution of data platforms and data engineering in general, or are we stepping into something that's completely incompatible and we are not really prepared for? So before I move forward, I promised that I would share a little bit about myself. So I kind of look at myself as someone that has a multi-dimensional view on data because I've been to many different aspects of it. I started my career in a service company. I was a BI developer, then I managed projects. So I basically built data warehouses for mostly growth stage startups, bringing first signs of observability to these companies. At some point, I got tired from building warehouses and decided I wanted to go into big data and infrastructure work. So I joined a growth stage company and started to build their big data lake, and investing a lot in self-service and enablement around data. At a certain point, I got bored in that, and I wanted to go over to practice some data leadership. And then I got the broadest scope of things and understanding what is our importance as data leaders to push data through the organization, make it more data-driven, and basically fighting with a lot of people to get my agenda through. At a certain point, I started a podcast together with my co-founder and co-host on a podcast. We also interviewed Maggie once. It was fun. And on the podcast, we got to talk to a lot of people from both from the community, innovators, people doing really cool things for their companies, and also data vendors building new things in the space. And that really opened my vision to what are people doing from both ends, where is the industry taking us and what do people actually do with everything that's now available to them. And the last step, well, not last, I'm still youngish, but the next step in my journey, I became a data founder 12 months ago or so, trying to actually make an impact on the vendor side of things with things that I feel that matter. So what I've seen through that time, not since the night, I was around in the 90s, but I started a bit later. But so as things shifted and really evolved and moved through time, two things basically stayed kind of the same from 90s probably. Someone yesterday told me that it's been the same since the 80s, so maybe. But One thing is data modeling, and the other is data consumption. So things have changed in terms of infrastructure, so a lot of change there. But in terms of methodologies and practices and how like processes work, it's still very much the same, right? It's both ends are very, very human reliable, like really based on human communication and interaction, which makes this both ends with one and with the data engineer, analytics engineer, the other one with the data analyst, pretty much like the bottlenecks for organizations, which everything goes through them, and like the faster or the better they can scale, the faster the organization can move in terms of data. As part of my entrepreneurial real journey, I got to talk to a lot of data leaders. Like I think I interviewed over 300 companies, talking to them about data. And I asked a VP data engineering from a very, very successful company. I think they were like, I don't know, like 4,000 people big. And the data engineering team was like 4 or 5 people actually like building data pipelines or modeling data. And I asked him, how do they cope with like being such a bottleneck for their organization, which I assume they are. And he said, yeah, we don't have bottlenecks. We just learned how to push back, which is kind of amazing. I guess it's true, and it's not. Yeah, but I remember I like learned this.
Well, if you're pushing back on everything, you just don't get work done.
You are right. You got some work done. Yeah, but people are intimidated. They won't come to you, and you feel like, yeah, that's solved. So yeah, you're right. It's not solving everything. It's just like, yeah. So it's not perfect. So what do a lot of organizations do? They do self-service, right? That's the way to go. I also think it's the way to go. There's no like surprise here. But what happens when you open data building for self-service, and then you have like software engineers building pipelines, and then you have analysts building pipelines, and you have just random people building pipelines, you end up with like a chaos thing, right? That's what happens, yeah. But there's no other choice. Like, what do you do? I don't remember what the next slide is, so I'm as curious as you are. Okay, so let's go back to those interviews I did with all those people. All of them women, of course, because, yeah, except for that VP data engineering, he was a man, okay? So I asked those people 2 questions. I asked them more, but like 2 questions I want to double click on. So I asked them, can you tell what people are actually doing with your data? And the second was, how do you even know you're building the right things? I don't know what you feel towards those questions, but I feel like if you can answer it, you're lying. I don't know, like, tell me later, but I think you're lying personally, because I didn't get like one straight answer from anyone about this. It's more like around gut feeling or like hunches that you get around like your work, or you've been there long enough, but you don't really know the answer to these questions. And that's fine, right? I mean, that's how we've worked for years. That's really fine, because we all get along, right? It just works, like in terms of expectations, like it's okay. But how scalable do you think this is? Like taking us to the next shift and where we're going with this. I think it's not going to cut it, but let's see what the next slide is. Okay, so today's data platforms, what do they assume? Like if they were human, what would have they assumed about themselves? So they assume stability, repeating patterns, and basically people complaining when things aren't okay. Think about it, like that's the way we work. I remember when I was managing a data platform, and there were things I knew. I had like logs. When an Airflow DAG would fail, I would have like a notification. But mostly people would come up and say, this is shitty, this is not working, I'm missing this, I'm missing that. Why don't you have this? This is incorrect. So it's really built on that like feedback that helps us basically improve and know where we are. And those repeating patterns are what helps us basically stay on top of things and be predictable, right? We can tell a manager, we grow at a pace of whatever, 5% a year, or this is what's going to happen, because we can kind of assume where things are going and stay like on track with cost, with performance and stuff like that. But what is happening today, and look, I've been to a lot of like AI talks today, it was super interesting. And that's what everyone is talking about. But I think like we're not there yet. I don't know how many people here actually work with like agentic data platforms. You have applications, you have some bots, you have some things going on, but look at what all the huge vendors like cloud vendors and like large data platforms are talking about. They're all talking about generative AI and agentic platforms around data warehouses, around lake houses. It's like happening all around us. I don't think many people meet this on a day-to-day basis on their companies, but this is the tomorrow that I'm talking about. It's really happening now. And let's break it down a little bit about what it actually means. So if you put them on the line, like different approaches or different applications for using agentic analytics. So basically it starts with like the new traditional analytics, which we have like the chatbots, and then it goes into AI-assisted analytics, where we have copilots, and eventually you go all the way to AI agents, and that is like the next step. So we go from something that's basically pretty static and predefined. It's reactive. It's handling pretty simple tasks. That's what it knows to answer. And then we go into something that's like semi-adaptive, but it's not really automated. Complexity rises a little bit, but it's not really there. But that tomorrow that we're talking about, that's like a full-fledged, like adaptive, proactive, built for complex queries. That's the near future that everyone's talking about. And what it's going to do, it's going to do a bunch of stuff, right? Pattern recognition and advanced analytics and exploration discovery and a lot of really cool things that we expect from these agents to be able to do proactively throughout our data platforms, which sounds basically amazing. So the world is changing, but what is going to happen the day that the majority of your consumers become these AI agents? What's going to happen there? So I'll tell you. So those dashboards that we're working with in terms of consumption, they're going to become these interfaces for agents. And pool-based access that we've come so like accustomed to will go like grow into proactive insights. That is like, oh my God, that is going to be like a catastrophe basically. And access control should grow into AI guardrails, which are going to be like very intelligent and smart to keep our data safe and guarded. I looked through, like I tried to read some stuff to make sure I'm not making anything up. I came across this blog post by Databricks. It was really nice, really interesting, and they talked about like transforming the sales experience engineer into something that's like more agentic and built on proactive agents and stuff like that. And they showed this like amazing architecture. It is, I'm not like being cynical, it is amazing, like this amazing infrastructure around it. It looked really great and really convincing, but do you know where your data platform is? And all of this like nice architecture, it's somewhere here. Like it's behind Unity Catalog, and not all of us have Unity Catalog, which is awesome, but it's behind. Like we're not even talking about it. Like it's there. It's just taken care of, right? And at the bottom of this really nice blog post, they like posted a few things that like, yeah, you should make sure that you take care of this shit that needs to go on before you get going with it, because your data is still messy. Like when did that get solved? Like data is really messy. ROI is a big thing. Like we have to be really aware of it because we're going to spend a lot of money on this. How do we even know like that it actually matters? And AI governance is a real must, and governance in general. Like those are like building blocks that have to be there, have to be in place before you go ahead and build these like amazing infrastructure around this, assuming that your data platform can handle this. So I think we pretty much established, I think so, that like no one is going to look under that hood for you guys. Like this is on you to look under the hood. And I think this is like a huge wake-up call for anyone managing a data platform or actively working on a data platform to make sure that we have everything ready for that next step, because it's going to assume that you're cool with anything like under that hood. Yeah. So let's lighten things up because it's really dark. So there is a good part to it, right? Because data literacy, which has been like a a very serious illness for organizations worldwide. So that is going to be cured, right? It's going to be a thing of the past, and that's pretty much amazing. I think this is why I've been fighting with different departments in my organization over, because I wanted everyone to be like data accessible or could work with data. So now everyone can work with data and barriers are gone, and you're the most popular person in your organization, and that is very cool. It's like being in the future. But the bad part about it is that I think that the way you used to optimize your data platform up until now is just not going to cut it anymore. Like those incremental changes and improvements, you're going to be handling such a magnitude of queries and activity on your data platform, and without the proper foundations to handle it, it's just not going to cut it anymore. Okay, so let's start to break it down. I called it the data platform manifest. I don't even know why, but those are like different aspects of governance that we all take care of. Like we have been taken care of for years. So we have availability and timeliness and quality and consolidation and cost and performance and access, and all of those things have to still be taken care of in this new era of agentic data platforms. So what is going to help us get there? Is it semantic layers? No. Last night I met someone at a happy hour, and I told him, I don't know why. He asked me, I told him I was giving a talk. I said, you should come. No one's going to, I'm so happy you're here. I thought I was going to be alone. But I told him, you should come to, he's not here. You should come to my talk. And he said, what is it about? So I ended up telling him the whole thing. And then I got to the point, I was telling him about the architecture and all the problems. And I said, but there's semantic layers. So yeah, it's not going to cut it. It's not going to help. Basically, semantic layers are awesome, right? They define the APIs of how to access your data, which is super important, and even more important in this agentic world. But it's just another bottleneck, just like we had data models and pipelines as a bottleneck for the organization. Now semantic layers are bottlenecks because they have to keep up with the business, and we have to keep them up to date and correct and fresh as the requests that come in and the things that people actually ask and require of it. So no, semantic layers are not going to solve that problem for us. So what is? First of all, you guys, you are going to solve that problem, and I'm going to try to give you some kind of blueprint to work it out. But initially, you need to map out those gaps to estimate the impact of what you're seeing, design and adapt your data platform, and iterate on that. So it sounds super, super simple, but yeah, I know it's not that simple, but I think good news, again, I think it's the second good news and only second, we don't have any more good news coming, so this is the last point. But the good news is that basically you have it under your nose. Most of what you need is metadata. Okay, you need to understand a lot of things, and it's basically within reach for most of us. And I want to explain what I'm talking about. So how we've been talking about treating data as a product for years, right? So what does that mean to people? Okay, I'll say. So data contracts, right? Because that's what the industry did about around data as a product. But it's much more than that, because I don't think anyone really feels that they're the real product manager for your data. What do actual product managers do? They really put a lot of effort in investigating, analyzing, and understanding how users use their applications and their products. Do we do that for our data? No. I don't think so. Are you? I never used to, but think about it. Data, product managers, they look for friction points and dead ends and underused features and loved features and flows that don't work out and where people basically break out of the flows, and we don't do this. So metadata is going to help us get there. I don't know if I can say shit. Metadata is the new shit. That's why I left the F. So, okay. So the metadata is going to basically tell you how your data being interacted with. And it doesn't matter if it's an AI agent or a person, it's just a matter of scale. And you cannot ask, we can ask agents, but it's not on my slides. But So where queries actually slow, what causes confusion in different workflows, what is actually trusted and people use a lot, and where data actually silently fails different workflows. So let me take an example, okay, to walk you through this for the people who lost me. So let's say it's tomorrow, and you're managing this agentic data platform in your organizations, and the organization is filled with tons of like per department fleets of agents that basically go through the data all the time and find like interesting insights and yeah, drive the business forward. And you have the sales fleet and the marketing fleet and the CS fleet and your favorite, the finance fleet, which is always the most annoying one. And they continuously scan and report and forecast and do a lot of stuff around your data. That is awesome. And then one thing that's not going to disappear tomorrow, there will be another quarter and you need to plan your next quarter according to your roadmap. And then comes the challenge. All those executives from those departments come and say, I know sales comes and says, oh, my agent can't produce good enough conversion insights, I'm not happy. And the marketing leadership would say, I have to have like better funnel stages for my campaign reporting. And CS says that they're missing key touch points. And the finance says, I really need like enriched forecast granularity. I'm missing data to work with. So I don't know like how you guys deal with like planning and roadmap, but the way I face this every time is like, whoa, they all sound really important. I have no freaking idea like which is more like critical for anyone, and usually it goes with whoever yelled louder or more important, or the CEO said something. But I didn't really have the tools to decide like what should I do around this. Maybe it's just me, but imagine, just imagine that you had like really deep observability to understand how things look like in terms of like actual usage. So this is like I don't know, a chart that shows you like per department, first of all, how the data spans across different modeling layers. So we have like bronze for the raw data, silver for the in between, and gold for like data that's ready for consumption. And then we can see how queries are actually targeting the different layers of the data. So we can learn so much from this, like how many fall back and go to raw data to query, and how many fall into the gold, and how much gold do we actually have available, and how well do those layers serve the use cases that meet them. And then of course you have some information about how the agents actually work. So you have like average iteration per result and like the error rate per agent fleet. So you have a lot of information to work with and actually understand where and why they're actually struggling. So from this, I can actually build my plan, right? So I can see that for sales, for example, first of all, there's very high activity. You see it here, right? So, oh, here, sorry. So you have very high activity. They use a lot of bronze, like a lot of bronze, which means they're working hard, working a lot, and also failing a lot. They had a high error rate. And then marketing is kind of balanced. They didn't have a lot of error rate, and it's kind of a balance between bronze and gold, which is interesting. For CS, then we see that the agents actually manage to use a lot of those curated templates that serve them, and they're really high on activity, so it actually looks good. And finance, yeah, they have a very high error rate, and there's a high like agent drop-off because of those missing dimensions, which actually correlate with what the leadership said. So from this, I can actually make data-driven decisions. So I can prioritize that gold layer models and sales just like they wanted to. I can defer marketing because they're doing just fine. Customer success deserve like some reduction in complexity, and finance require some augmentation to their models that actually makes sense. But this was a whole different process and basically built on like observability on assets that you probably can build something similar today. So what have we done? We managed to improve the agent performance, and reliability should be higher now, lower cost because we're going to reduce use of bronze, which is a very problematic flow. So we have more trust from stakeholders because now they're aligned with expectations and understand what actually happened. And the modeling teams can shift from being reactive, which is what mostly happens today, into basically working in a much more intelligent way of orchestrating their workloads. So now let's start building the plan around this. Like how do we actually get there? I think the first thing that needs requires understanding. And by the way, it's not really new. Like I think that whenever we try to do things that are larger than ourselves within organizations, it just requires more people to get it done. You just can't do it by yourself, and you need to widen your circle of influence. So the interesting thing is, which like I came to an understanding around, that you might actually be the only people in your organizations that actually get this. People could be like so excited about things that you can do with data, but only you understand the complexities and like where you need to bring your data platform to in order to enable this at scale for your organization and not like finish with a total chaos. And you need to understand what you basically can take charge on and impact, and what you need other people outside of your like circle of influence to help you out. So the first thing you have to do is have some sponsorship, some executive sponsorship, buy-in to help you achieve your goals, because you will need budget. And I mean, data orgs have forever needed budget, right? Because a lot of us don't really have something that we can work with. Like we don't have exactly the budget lines for the things we want to achieve, so we kind of scrap that away as we move, because aside from like compute resources, it's very hard to define like what can we actually spend money on. And these kind of like large projects require this. So budget and authority, you're gonna need someone to help you out with this. Those cross-organizational chains, they really require top-down support. I imagine a lot of you tried to do like complex processes for other organizations without like proper support. It's doomed to fail. I failed so many times. It was very hurtful to go through that process, but it's something that you have to be ready to take off with. And then you need the champions, right, to back you up in terms of priorities when things get hard, because it's going to be a journey to get there. Second thing is you need alignment sideways, right? So you need adjacent teams to help you out and be like on board with these actions. So you need product engineering, you need operations. You have to work with the operations team as well. So you need to take care of the upstream and the teams that are producing data pipelines, also your consumers, because data quality, and you know that, I know that you know that, but data quality has to be solved upstream, where we talked about data contracts, but this is a much wider problem that you will have to have solved. And then there's you, and the foundations that you need to take care of. And probably most of the foundations I will talk about, you're already working on it. The first one would be real-time enablement. So real-time is critical, because this is going to be a problem you do not want to handle once like you're in the process. And I think this is pretty much become like a commodity to have like a streaming bronze layer. And if you're not there, this is probably something you will have to aspire to, because we talked about semantic layers before being like the new bottlenecks. This is just a reality. And those agents or new consumers at scale will have to have fallbacks, because otherwise they're just going to not get answers for their questions. So you need good raw data, and you need to arrive on real time or near real time. And you need to have enablement, because self-service is key for this. Remember, we talked about bottlenecks. A semantic control plane, whatever, or semantic layer, this is a very important part of building the internal infrastructure to enable data consumption and agentic data platforms consumption at scale, to help control the quality of the answers that they are actually able to produce through those predefined APIs. Vector native search, of course, like everyone that have tried to play with AI around data, so we know how important a vector infrastructure is to improve the ability to answer different questions with similar questions that we already have in place, or actually index data within to improve the quality. And the last one, again, is metadata. But you actually, like what I showed before is really nice, but we want to have like an active feedback loop. So we want to consume metadata all the time and then produce insights from that metadata to induce change within the data platform. And this is a part that we should all work on. And I think like you can see this, and like I'm building a product in this area, but in general, you can see how data governance products today are kind of changing or shift. If you look through like existing sites for different data governance products, they're all starting to talk like in this lingo of how to make everything more proactive and more live, and a lot about feedback and insights, because this is something that has to bring a lot of movement into the data platform. It cannot stay as something that's like read-only or observability only. Okay. So if you look at the data platform, and again, a very simplistic view of a data platform, like super simplistic. So on one end, we have that real-time ingestion that we talked about, and that is a pristine layer because it's supposed to be high quality. Unless you make sure it's high quality raw data, you're going to have a lot of problems later on dealing with quality issues. On the other hand, we have the consumers, which I believe will divide into mainly these three parts. We have actual products consuming data, we have those agents that we talked about, and self-service analytics, which is going to grow like bigger probably outside of dashboards. And the whole middle part, okay? So basically, when we look at all the data platform, including the semantic layer, which, by the way, can actually be another layer, like model data on top of your bronze, silver, gold. It doesn't have to be like a metric store per se. But all this layer has to be like super dynamic and change over time, because if we keep it static the way we have up until now, we're going to be in a big problem. You know, I recently thought about it, that I worked like one of the stages when I worked for a growth stage startup. I worked there for 8 years, and when I left, I realized that there are pipelines that I wrote there 8 years ago that were like customer facing and had no relation with what the product actually looked like today. And it's kind of amazing, but that's just how things work. And this is not going to hold once you lose control over how data is used and like in that sort of scale. And that metadata intelligence layer. So it can be as simple as just a layer to consume all these metrics that, again, a lot of them you already have, and you need to start collecting more and more metadata. But it can actually be a product that can help you automate things around this, but it can go anywhere between simple observability into full automation, but you need to start conserving this data. This is going to become your largest assets as the new product managers of your data platform. Without this, you're kind of blind. And this is basically the most important part I wanted you to understand. Okay. The kind of questions that we can basically get from this is which data is missing? Okay, and we need to have like available within the platform. Which data has gone stale, and we need to take care of it and rebuild it. What requires better freshness because of the kind of questions that are asked. What's hard to answer today? What takes too long or too many loops to get answer for? And what's actually lower in ROI and basically has to die because it has no reason to exist. On the other hand, we have like the understanding of what are the use cases that are actually required. This is super interesting. What do people want? What's trending at the moment? Like what's happening more often than others? Are those agents using too much history when bringing back data? Just being naive and basically you don't need this. This costs a lot of money to store and to retrieve. Maybe they're using like excessive accuracy for tasks that are not critical or finance related. And in general, do we have too much information that's causing confusion within this loop? So if I look at the data group around this, like maintaining this data platform that we talked about, I personally see two main roles shifting around this, but it's just like my understanding of things. So first thing is the data infrastructure engineers, you can be calm because you're going to stay just as you are, I think. Yeah, so yay. So because data infrastructure is supposed to stay there, right? You have to build this whole thing and continue investing on infrastructure and on enablement and self-service to keep this thing going around like the freshness and everything that we talked about before. And all the moving parts of the data platform. I believe that the other part around like actual data modeling or engineering, analytics engineering, should actually shift and change to be much more data driven. So I like grouped a couple of words together. I call it like data product architects. You can call it many different ways, but I think that these kind of people people, agents, I don't know, but these kind of people that will like are in charge of the actual building of the data platform have to change their perspectives and how they work and how they choose their tasks and how they prioritize and what do they actually build. And personally, I think it's part of something larger where I'm starting to look at data and data platforms as part of the actual infrastructure. Like data assets for themselves are not really interesting. What's interesting is what people do with them, the applications they build on top of them, the questions that they ask on top of them. Data itself is infrastructure to enable all this. Let's treat it as infrastructure and start measuring ourselves and building it like software architecture. I'm almost done. I have no idea what the time is. But what I wanted to say, also I have another like optimistic thing. So this sounds like a lot of work, but we always had a lot of work because it's nothing new. But I actually think that this might have been like this might be the like big break that we've all been waiting for. I think that like for years it's been talked about like how data is so important for organizations, but still nothing really changed in terms of like again the budgets that we're getting or the C-level sponsorship that we've been getting or like the seat in the executive table in general for data. How many people there have like a CDO in their company or someone above like VP level that actually is dedicated to data? I don't know. I think not much from the 300 companies that I've talked to. In a world where AI becomes a commodity, and you see how easy it is to build those MCPs and those agents and those infrastructures, what is going to stay super critical and strategic for companies is the actual proprietary data. And it's your ability to leverage this data and use it with all this commodity new AI infrastructure. And if we don't get it right, then we don't get it at all. So, yeah. Thank you.